Yay. Okay.
All right.
So if you can't see, so imagine you can see me recording you, right?
Yes.
Perfect. So we're going to go with a gallery view like this. And I'm going to hold my camera like this. And you and me are going to have a conversation like this.
All right.
I'm brilliant.
That's
Okay.
good creative thinking. Sometimes what we have to do.
We sorted it out. Ha ha ha. Screw
That's right.
and Zoom, we're figuring it out. So welcome, Courtney, to Flow Podcast. I'm super excited to have you here. And, your topic is, close to my heart because, our demographic and the ladies in our group and everything else like that are all women entrepreneurs who are, in the throes of growing their business. So of course, many of them are in much need either of self-care, or they've hit burnout, or they want to avoid burnout because they've, once bitten, twice shy.
Right.
And so, Courtney is in one of my coaching groups, right? Courtney and I have taken a similar, business program. And so, there's so many awesome coaches and professionals who I've invited to come and speak every Friday at noon on various topics of health and self-care and in business and health and finances and, relationships. So all the topics that are close to our heart. So hi, Courtney. So tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from.
Hi, Lori. Thanks so much for having me today. And I'm so excited to kick off your new season, especially with this topic. I think it's a really great thing to talk about as we kind of transition seasons too, and kind of work through that back to school time. Fall is a time to kind of refresh our practices and our habits with business and our life. So excited to talk about this today. I am in New York State, and my work is focused around helping women to recover from emotional experiences. So when I work with clients, we really focus on things like self-worth, improving self-esteem and confidence to feel more empowered in our lives after we've had something very emotional happen to us, so that we can feel re-empowered and kind of step back into our own personal power and reclaim your life to move forward and have that life that you truly want. So not getting stuck in the emotion of the emotional experiences, but really processing through that to be able to move forward.
Wow, that's really important work too, right? Because, and some of the things that I always talk to my clients and my groups about, that, anything can happen in life that can throw you off track. It's like getting that wrench in your wheel, right?
Yeah.
And you're riding your bike along, oh, happily and la 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 la, and then something gets stuck in your wheel and you get thrown over the handlebars. And it's important even to have some of these tips and tools ahead of time so that you can avoid being taken out for long periods of time, not only in your life, but in your business, right? Because some of us, probably most of us, are self-employed, which means that if we're not working in our business, we're not making any money. And so it's important that, we have these skills and tools so that we can do the healing work, yet at the same time, still, be badass businesswomen and, be, present for our families, because we play a huge role in every area of our life. Like, women are super, super important. So tell us some of the ways in which you do that, Courtney.
Yeah, I love what you said about knowing the strategies and the tools before the big situations really happen, because building those tools and practicing them consistently is where you really start to see the difference in your life when those big things happen. So in my work, we work with three main areas of life. It's personal health, relationships, and work. And so we want to create that sense of being empowered in all of those areas. And when those bigger things happen in life, we kind of feel knocked down sometimes. We might feel like we get stuck and we lose our personal sense of control, our kind of agency and our ability to choose what goes on in our life when something big happens that's beyond our control. And so we work with a lot of mindset strategies. I also use movement and breathwork tools to find that place of bringing the body and mind together to reduce stress completely. So it's not just movement, it's not just, thinking about doing something, but really bringing together the body and mind to help adjust our energy, our thoughts, our emotions. And really, mindset is where it all begins, right? Because our thoughts dictate so much of how we operate and how we exist in life and in the world. So we really work on, finding those ways where we can shift our mindset patterns a little bit. And, that can be really challenging, especially if we've had something difficult happen. Maybe there's a lot of negativity associated with it. If we're in a state of burnout, we tend to feel just unmotivated, helpless. We're lacking motivation, and just exhaustion can create some negativity. So we try to find those places where we can create some different patterns to move out of burnout and manage stress in better ways.
Yeah, I totally agree. And can you give us some examples of maybe, what kind of traumatic experiences, like, without going into too much detail, privacy, or whatever else, but like, what are some big traumatic things that maybe a woman would experience, in business or in life that could, where she might need some of these tools? Because that's what you're talking about, a big traumatic thing. Like, what could a woman experience or go through that maybe a woman could be like, oh my God, that happened to me. I didn't even realize. Because the reason why I'm asking this is not to dwell on the negativity, but also because we are so programmed to just push through tough times in our life. We don't ever stop to realize that we always are like, oh, I can, it's not that big a deal. Oh, things could be worse, when it's really, you're in the shit, right? So it's terrible. Like, this is a terrible, terrible thing that happened. And you're like, and someone is like, things could be worse to them, right? Like trying to diminish, and they come from a really good place of love when they say, oh, things could be worse, because it's a heavy burden to have, which is why you should seek professionals like Courtney, because the heavy burden to carry. And when you tell somebody that, they're like, oh, well, it's okay, everything's fine, you'll get through this, you're strong. And you're like, so tell, and I can just give one example in my life that I can imagine that you're going to share, but what are some things that women maybe have gone through that is considered traumatic?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And I love that you brought in that idea of trying to cover it up with positivity too, because that positivity can actually become toxic. I don't know if you've heard that term, toxic positivity.
That's exactly why I mentioned it, because we do it to ourselves, and we do it to our friends, and they do it to us, because we're just trying to get through the day, but we also need to feel.
Absolutely. Right? Yes. And that feeling creates a sense of acceptance around the situation. And I like to tell people that accepting it doesn't mean that you like it or that you want it to happen, but it's coming to this place where you can acknowledge that it did happen. And it's a sense of being okay with it. It's not something that you chose. It's not maybe even a reflection of anything that you did, but it's this sense of accepting it. You don't need to deny it anymore. And so that state of denial kind of keeps us in a cycle of negativity around whatever the situation is. We're fighting it so hard. And when we come to that place of acceptance, it's like, okay, I can acknowledge that this happened. And from there, you can start to move forward. I don't know if you've heard the expression to start where you are. It's like you have to get clear on where you are first. If you think about taking a trip, you need to know where you're starting from in your GPS or looking at the map to know where you gotta go.
Here, right?
Exactly, right.
Even if you're in the crap, you're here, and it's okay.
Exactly.
This is what you need to know so that you know where to go and how to get out of there.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Yes.
Good.
And so a lot of the women I work with have had deeply emotional experiences back in their childhood. We
Okay.
work with a lot of adverse childhood experiences where, maybe they are still holding on to some of the symptoms of these events. The events themselves could look like abuse, neglect, a lot of difficulties in the home, but it can also be things related to outside of the home, maybe being bullied at school a lot, living in poverty, a lot of community difficulty. So the effects of these kinds of situations really carry through for the entire lifetime that a person is in their life. And it's interesting around the research with adverse childhood experiences, it's about 60 to 70% of people have had at least one adverse childhood experience. And so this is more common than we think and we realize. And the effects can be physical, mental, and emotional. In the work I do, we really focus on the mental and emotional side, but with also the physical side. I incorporate yoga into my work and my programs, but we look at overcoming things like perfectionism, our limiting beliefs, our idea that we have to be busy, busy, busy all the time. And what are we avoiding by trying to stay so busy? Our comparison traps that we get into and why we're comparing so much.
So really, all the things that you're describing, sorry to interrupt, are considered traumatic.
Right. Yeah.
Cool, guys. So these are like simple everyday things that many women go through. And so even something as far back in your childhood could still be affecting you today. But also you can also experience current traumas on top of the past traumas that you have that could amplify things maybe too, right?
Absolutely. I mean, even living through the pandemic, this is being called a collective trauma where, there's so much emotion coming up. And this is a long-term chronic stress event where, we're in this for, it's been, a year and a half already. We don't know the end date. So we want to really try to create those coping strategies and tools to help us manage that chronic stress, because chronic stress is a precursor to burnout. Right. And so if we can find those ways to manage our thoughts, manage our emotions now, we can prevent burnout and use these same tools for healing and overcoming burnout as well.
And you know what a great, perfect segue into kind of talking more about when we don't get a grip on, these stress levels, you're going to end up, if you aren't already are in burnout. And I think that people are in complete, I'm not going to say incomplete denial, but they don't even realize that they're in burnout because it's such a cultural norm for women to be busy and doing all the things because we're awesome and we can do all the things, but doing all the things is exhausting us. And that is just a sign of burnout. It's a symptom.
Completely.
And people don't recognize burnout. It doesn't mean mental breakdown, although it could go there. Burnout is just tired.
Exhaustion.
And after a week of, work and back to school, because we haven't been back to school in so long, I'm like, I forgot to make my kids breakfast and make their lunches at least 1 or 2 times this week. Cause I'm like, what? Right. I'm in mental burnout just from adding the kids going back to school to the mix this week. Right. So That was traumatic. Them going back to school. I'm like, oh my God, I got to make lunches. Oh my God, I got to get up, drive kids. Like,
right. Yeah, it's one more thing on top of everything else. And sometimes that just feels too overwhelming to keep track of everything. And we're always trying to keep our lives going, going, going. So when we add on one more thing, it's like, how much more can we do? It starts to feel like too much sometimes.
Okay. But yet we still try to do more. So what can we do?
Right.
Courtney, this is the opportunity. So what do we do? Like, how do we balance and, stay in control of, our emotions and our, all the stuff without
Yeah.
losing our minds? What do we need to do?
Well, so if we think about stress triggers our fight or flight response where we get highly activated, and we want to find those ways to deactivate and get out of the fight or flight state. And there's research around how getting out of fight or flight is what actually completes our stress cycle. So when we get those short-term immediate stressors, it's like, oh my gosh, I have to do this thing right away, or, I forgot I have to make lunch, let me do it real quick. After that time, you want to give yourself a moment to relax and really realize that the stress is done, so that your body's not continually producing these stress hormones when maybe it doesn't always need to be. And there's a couple of really simple ways to do that. One of my absolute favorites is breathing practices, because we are always breathing. Our breath is our most accessible tool, and it's completely portable. So you can breathe anytime, anywhere, and use that to regulate your own stress.
Can you give us an example?
Absolutely.
Do you want to do it after? Do you want to explain first and then do it after before we wrap things up? Okay.
Yeah, because breathing can be used to increase your energy or decrease your energy. So whatever you need, there's certain practices that you can do to manage your energy and your state for whatever you need in that moment. And the one we can do in a moment is actually beneficial for either form of energy that you need. So if you're feeling anxious and really elevated, you can use this one to tone down your energy. But if you're kind of sluggish today, it's also nice for a little boost. It's kind of like drinking water, like it's good for you anytime, which is really nice.
Good point.
But our breathing really helps to regulate our nervous system and our stress. So anytime we can catch those stressful moments, taking a moment to step back, be with yourself and breathe helps you to be recentered and refocused. So you're actually able to meet those next moments from a better place. You're more calm, you're more centered. And, if you're stepping into a difficult conversation or have something, maybe it's a big meeting coming up, you're going into that feeling a little bit better. You're more centered in yourself and ready to take on what's happening. So you're able to control your thoughts and emotions before the big event, but you might need it after that big event too, if something came up that you're not expecting or whatever it might be. So the one we can do right now, it's a balanced breathing practice where we try to equally balance the inhale with the exhale. And we do this by counting. So I'll use a count of 4 as I guide this one. But if anybody's watching and listening and 4 feels like it's too long, maybe you're running out of breath, you can shorten it to a count of 3. And if you have a little bit more breath, you can go up to a count of 5. So just know that you can adjust for you.
And if you guys have questions, I've got my comments here, I can see. So
great. And I will just mention too, if it doesn't feel good in any way, if it's like agitating or maybe it makes you anxious, just let it go. You can sit with us for a moment and still get the good energy from being a part of the practice.
Yeah.
So for this one, we can just sit up tall and we'll breathe in and out through our nose as we do this.
Okay.
And so we'll just take a regular breath in through the nose and regular breath out. And then breathing in for 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathing out 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathing in 1, 2, 3, 4. And breathing out 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll do one more. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 4, 3, 2, 1. And then just take a moment and notice how you feel. So notice if anything feels different. Maybe it's in your body, maybe it's in your mind. And that was maybe 1 minute of simply
Yeah.
breathing.
I feel so much calmer, and it's so funny because obviously you can see me recording a Zoom if you guys are watching live right now, because we had technical difficulty in the beginning, and so that kind of got me a little flustered and a little, like so that really brought me back to center. So great idea, great tip too. So what else can we do? So breathing.
Yeah, I like to use a mantra for myself as well.
Nice.
And this particular one is one that makes me feel much stronger going into any kind of situation, because it reminds me that I have more control than I might think. And so with this mantra, we can think about how we would choose to be in any situation. So maybe you want your day to be peaceful, and your mantra would be, I choose to be peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you want to feel strong. I choose to be strong. I choose strength. And just filling in the sentence, I choose, with what you actually want for yourself. And this is a great way to feel more in control. Again, going into maybe some of those difficult talks, maybe you need to say something to someone and it's really hard to get the courage to do so. Maybe it's making a boundary with somebody and you want to say, please don't call me after 9 o'clock at night. I need that time for myself. And, kind of thinking about, how do I want to be in that moment? Like, I want to be kind, but I don't want to be mean. And, when you get really clear on what you want for yourself before you go into that situation, you already go in with more confidence, because you feel stronger in yourself. You know what you are hoping for, the outcome that you want. And you are clear on how you want to show up. And that makes you less susceptible to kind of the waves that might happen, whether it's during that particular conversation or during the day. You can stand your ground a little bit firmer. So kind of creating that intention for yourself about what you want in your day, in your next few moments, in a big situation, and using that to focus on what you can control and what you can't control.
Yeah, that's a really good point about what you can and can't control. And I love that you utilize yoga and movement. I remember a very, like in one of the yoga classes that I've done, that stuck with me was, the whole breathing, like breathing when you're holding a difficult pose, right? And she said something like, this is why yoga is so practical in real life, is because, when you're going through something difficult, people tend to hold their breath, right? So breathing through holding a difficult pose in yoga is going to teach you how to breathe when you're holding difficult space in your own personal life. So I was like, wow, that's really profound. I really carried that forward with me.
Absolutely. There's actually one of the kind of ancient gurus of yoga who says that the pose begins the moment you want to leave it. And that's where the deeper work really comes. And we can always find that one more breath to take. We can always breathe through the next moment and use our breath as our tool to, be with ourselves and get through that moment of challenge.
Right. Because they're always going to come. Always. Yes. One thing, in all the trainings and coaching and whatever it is that I've done, and even just in my own life, in your own life, like we've all overcome all the challenges that we've ever, faced ourselves with. And so, but that's also going to tell us that throughout our life, we're always going to be faced with other challenges. And what do you have in your toolbox to be able to, best manage those when they come? And I like how you talked about the fight or flight, because that's critical. And, right now, in terms of like everything that's going on in the world right now, I think everybody, especially if you're on social media, is constantly hit and are constantly in fight or flight, which means constant stress levels are really, really high. So reminding ourselves to do these kind of breathings, or yeah. um, Even when you're just on your phone, like
Right.
just take a few deep breaths, right? Before, during, after. You really have to remind yourself, like, how do we get into the habit of this, Courtney? Because obviously, learning this isn't going to create the habit. So how do we create the habit of this so that we know how to implement it when we need it?
Yeah, definitely. I like to think about making all of our self-care practices simple, short, and sweet.
Okay, I love
So,
that.
yeah, so easy to do. You can even remember that with the 3 S's: simple, short, and sweet, where we're doing things that are pretty much our basics for health and well-being. It's drinking water, it's eating our fruits and vegetables, breathing, taking some time to go outside if we can, and moving our bodies. It doesn't have to take a long time. It can be a couple minutes. For a lot of people, incorporating self-care into a short morning routine can be really, really effective because it's before everything gets going in the day. So you're, certain to take that few minutes for yourself, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes, and do those things for yourself, which actually helps your brain start out with a little positive boost. Giving yourself a little bit of care gives yourself those positive, good brain chemicals that we all want and need.
I couldn't agree more with you, Courtney, in terms of like this, like keep it simple, short and sweet, because, if you are, an entrepreneurial woman and you're a mom and you're a wife or a partner and, all those things, you might only have these little pockets of time throughout the day. And I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people that I totally believe in, like, and I do a 5 minute, like, I'm like 5 minutes or less. So I love the fact that you were like, this was a couple minutes. If you can throw these little minute practices into your day all throughout your day, oh my God, you are going to it's going to change your life. It's going to change your world. I love that, because that's exactly what we need to do. Like little bits. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't, honestly, the longer it could be worse. And so, Courtney, I don't know if you knew this of me, but I worked in fitness. So I was a personal trainer and a fitness instructor for 15 years before I went into the mindset empowerment coaching. Right. I retired from fitness, and honestly, past a 45-minute mark, your body is in stress after exercise, right? So depending on how intense your exercise is. So I even stopped myself going for like long than 1 hour workouts, because it's just, you're putting more stress on your body, and then it's defeating the entire purpose of exercise. Like the fitness industry is like so behind the ball in self-care. It's not even funny. That's a whole nother show. So when I'm telling you guys that, a little, a yoga pose, like just pick one pose and hold it for a minute or two. That's it. That's enough. Like do that throughout the day. You don't have to do, big spurts of energy. A nice long walk. Like we are killing ourselves unnecessarily, like really, really grinding ourselves down to unnecessary levels. And for what? Really, at the end of the day. So when getting really clear, you guys, on what the purpose is and why you're doing all the things that you're doing, when you really realize that your self-care, you're sacrificing your self-care to have it all, it's not going to be worth it when you're burnt out and in the gutter and depressed and like not even you've lost yourself in all of it for what? So really, if you can take these few minutes for yourself in the morning, in the afternoon, early on in the evening, it's going to make a world of a difference.
Definitely. Yeah, consistency is key. And so a few minutes every day is better than, 2 hours once a week. Really, right. A little bit of time. And kind of getting clear on how much time do you have, And then look at what you can do within that time. So if it's 5 minutes, if it's 10 minutes, you might take a minute for breathing and, you know, a couple minutes for journaling, and then you're good to go. Or maybe it's a walk out to the corner and then you come back and drink your cup of tea. Whatever it is for you, it doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be complicated, but really prioritizing that time and protecting it like it's gold because it really is. Your
It totally
well-being
is.
is the foundation of your entire life, your business, your home life, your personal life, your health, your relationships. It's everything. And
Yeah.
so we need this time for ourselves.
Yeah, it makes us better human beings because we're going to be not only better for ourselves, which means we're going to be happier, but it will make us a better partner because we're happier. It's going to make us a better mother because we're happier. It's going to make us a better, you know, community, you know, participant because we're happy and we're not walking around miserable all the time. Like it's a real waterfall ripple effect, just doing these little things for yourself as often as you can throughout the day. And I'm so grateful that you came, Courtney, to share some of these things with us and to really open the dialogue in self-care to avoid burnout and to also bounce out of it, because this is really what Flow podcast is all about. And every week we're going to be bringing, you know, different professionals to the forefront to really talk about all the ways in which, you know, you can do self-care. And so you had mentioned in the beginning something that you had a gift to give, you know, the people who are watching today. So tell us a little bit about that.
I do have a gift. It's an emotional self-care bundle. So this is a great little package of tools I put together to help people manage stress and burnout and be able to deal with the various types of emotions that we all experience. So not just the good ones, we're not cherry picking our favorite, but really trying to create a sense of acceptance around however we feel, because however we feel at any moment is okay.
Right.
And so in this bundle, there's a guide, there's a breathing practice, and there's some journaling work to help people get that clarity and feel more comfortable with how they feel and be able to move forward from there.
That is so fantastic. Thank you. And so is it a guided journal? Like you actually, I love that.
There's guided journaling. Yes. Yes.
Perfect. And so if you guys want access to that bundle, just type bundle in the comments below, and Courtney will see it because I'm going to tag her in this video, obviously. And I also want to offer you guys something too, and it's just called a 5-minute pleasure practice. And it's all ways in which you can bring more pleasure to your life in less than 5 minutes. So, you know, on top of the beautiful breathing and the journaling that you can do, because maybe that might not be your thing because everybody is different, right? Then you can, you know, there's lots of other ways in which you can give yourself a little bit of self-care, you know, for 1 minute, like we talked about, 5 minutes, and more if you have more time for yourself. Lucky you. You know, and if you can give yourself the gift of more time, like any minute extra that you have to give yourself is phenomenal and such a huge gift. Like as I mentioned before, that you would be giving to everybody else. So you know what, pleasure practice, or you know, ask for the bundle. You can have both. I mean, we're here to serve in every which way that we can. And so do you want to leave everybody with a last comment or quote or anything, Courtney, today to just kind of wrap everything up?
Yeah. I like to say that every new breath is a chance to begin again. So if you feel like you're having a bad day, if you're in that burnout, exhaustion, those tough moments, you know, really using some of the tools that we talked about today to come back to your power to choose, to come back to your breath, to take a moment for yourself when you need to. But it's never too late, you know, whether it's a tough day, whether it's a period of life that just feels really difficult, knowing when to reach out for support and connection and community. Lori and I are here for you. We can pass you on to any resources that we might have. But, you know, really knowing that support is available to you and you can do it. You have the power in your life.
Well, I couldn't have said it better myself. So thank you so much, Courtney, for joining us today. Anybody watching, if you have any comments, any questions, just drop them below and we'll get to them sometime today when we see them. And have yourselves a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you next Friday. Join us every Friday at noon for the flow with me and a special guest every week. Take care, you guys. All righty. And we're clear.
All right.
I'm just going to stop the recording now.
Oh, yes.
So I can have minimal